All right, so Disney stock, it's been on my mind a lot lately. You know, it seems like such a sure thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Disney iconic brand, beloved characters, theme parks.
Right.
But then you look at the stock performance,
Yeah.
and it's been kind of flat over the past decade.
Hmm.
So today we're going to try to unpack that.
Okay.
We have this this article from The Motley Fool as our guide.
Right.
And it raises some really interesting questions about Disney's, current performance and their future prospects.
Yeah, it really highlights, I think, the complexities of the modern media landscape these days.
Yeah.
You would think that a company like Disney would be
Printing money.
printing money in the streaming era,
Right.
but it's not that simple.
No, it's not. And that's what really caught my eye in this article, too, is that they point out that Disney Plus actually lost subscribers recently, while Netflix gained a ton.
Yeah.
Disney owns some of the biggest franchises on the planet. We're talking Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar.
Right.
What's going on there?
Yeah, I think the article suggests that maybe Disney's streaming strategy is a little bit all over the place.
Okay.
I mean, they've got Disney Plus, they've got Hulu. They're about to launch ESPN Plus as a separate service.
Right.
And then there are all these bundles.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah, it's a lot. It could be confusing for the average consumer.
Right.
Are they diluting their brand power by spreading themselves so thin?
That's a really good point, because Netflix keeps it pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
One platform, a mountain of content.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, let's not forget, Disney still dominates at the box office.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Moana 2 and Mufasa were massive hits.
Right.
Doesn't that count for something?
Oh, absolutely. Those blockbuster films are crucial for Disney.
Okay.
They drive theme park attendance, merchandise sales, and even, feedback into streaming subscriptions.
Right.
And it's a big part of, that whole ecosystem that Disney has built.
Yeah, and we have to remember, too, back in 2019, Disney acquired a huge chunk of Fox's entertainment assets.
Right.
$71 billion. That's crazy.
Yeah. For things like Avatar and the X-Men.
Huge franchises.
So those big tentpole franchises are key to making that investment pay off.
Yeah, for sure.
So box office success is still vital, even in the age of streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But what about ESPN? They were the undisputed kings of sports for so long.
Right.
Are they struggling to keep up in this new landscape?
ESPN is a really interesting case study.
Yeah.
Because they were a cash cow for Disney for years thanks to cable subscriptions.
Right.
But now cable is on the decline.
Yeah, I've definitely cut the cord.
Yeah. And the cost of sports rights is just skyrocketing.
Mm.
And on top of that, they're facing competition from these tech giants
Right.
like Amazon and Apple, who are willing to spend big bucks to get into the game.
Yeah, and I've noticed more and more live sports ending up on streaming services that I wouldn't traditionally associate with sports.
Right, exactly.
So what is the plan for ESPN?
Yeah.
Can they actually make the leap to streaming and maintain their dominance?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. Yeah.
I mean, launching a standalone ESPN Plus streaming service is a big gamble.
Hmm.
They need to attract a huge audience and prove they can be profitable
Right.
in this new environment. And it's not just about live games anymore.
So you're saying they need to offer something more.
Yeah.
Something that creates that must-watch feeling even when there's not a game on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The article argues that ESPN needs to kind of reconnect with audiences
Okay.
through studio programming, the
Yeah.
old SportsCenter days,
Ice out.
analysis, commentary, the stories behind the games. That's what builds a loyal following.
That makes a lot of sense. But all of this, the streaming wars, the evolving role of ESPN, it's got to be putting immense pressure on Disney's bottom line.
Right.
What's the overall financial picture looking like?
Well, the article mentions that Disney's projected earnings per share growth for the year is in the high single digits,
Okay.
which isn't bad.
Yeah.
But it's not the explosive growth that investors might expect.
Right, from a company like Disney.
Exactly. And then there's this new development. Disney recently announced that they're cutting 7,000 jobs.
Whoa! 7,000 jobs.
Yeah.
That's a significant chunk of their workforce.
It is?
What's the thinking behind that?
So according to CNBC, it's part of a broader effort to cut costs
Okay.
by a whopping $5.5 billion.
$5.5 billion.
Yeah.
That's a clear signal that Disney is feeling the heat.
Mm-hmm.
But are job cuts the right move?
That's a good question.
What are the potential downsides?
I mean, some analysts worry that these cuts could stifle creativity and innovation.
Okay.
Losing talented people could hurt their ability to produce those hit shows and movies that drive revenue.
Right.
And it's not just about layoffs.
Mhm.
They're also restructuring consolidating units, giving more power to creative executives.
So it's a pretty big shakeup.
It's a pretty big shakeup.
What does it mean for investors?
Yeah.
Is this a sign that Disney is righting the ship, or are they heading for rough waters?
It's hard to say. The stock price actually rose after the job cuts were announced. So maybe investors see this as a sign that Disney is taking the necessary steps to become more efficient.
Okay.
But there's always that risk that these cuts could backfire.
Right. It's a lot to consider. And then there's this other development that could change everything.
Okay.
Rumors are swirling that Disney might sell their majority stake in ESPN.
Now, that would be a seismic shift.
Yeah. Why would they even consider letting go of such a valuable asset?
Yeah.
I guess that's what we'll have to explore in part 2 of this deep dive.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so we just dropped a bombshell before the break. The possibility of Disney selling off ESPN.
Yeah.
Still reeling from that one. It seems so drastic.
Right.
Can you walk me through the logic here? Why would they even consider such a move?
Well, I think it might seem radical at first glance, but when you think about the pressures that we were just talking about,
Right.
The media landscape is changing so rapidly,
Right.
and cable TV, which was ESPN's bread and butter for so long, is becoming a relic of the past.
Yeah. So you're saying even though ESPN is still profitable,
Yeah,
the writing's on the wall.
exactly. Streaming is the future, and that's a whole new ballgame. With different rules and much higher stakes. I mean, building a successful streaming service is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
You have to invest heavily in content, technology, marketing.
Right.
And Disney is already pouring resources into Disney Plus and Hulu.
Right.
So adding a fully fledged ESPN streaming service on top of that might be too much to handle.
I guess I hadn't thought about it like that. They'd be competing against themselves in a way.
Exactly. And let's be honest, Disney Plus and Hulu have a much broader appeal
Yeah.
than a sports-only platform.
Right.
They can tap into that global audience that loves Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, all those classic Disney films.
Right.
So selling off ESPN would free up a ton of capital for them to focus on those streaming giants.
Okay, so double down on what's already working.
Right.
But wouldn't they be sacrificing a huge revenue stream?
Well, there's definitely a trade-off. I mean, ESPN is still profitable, but its growth has slowed considerably.
Right.
So selling it now while it still holds significant value could be seen as a really savvy business move to maximize their return and invest in areas with more growth potential.
So it's kind of like cashing in your chips while you're ahead.
Yeah.
And betting on something with a bigger potential payoff down the line.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And it's important to remember that Disney wouldn't necessarily be abandoning sports altogether.
Oh, okay.
They could retain a minority stake in ESPN,
Okay.
which would allow them to benefit from its success without the burden of running the entire operation.
So they could still have a finger in the pie without having to bake the whole thing.
Right. Exactly. And this isn't just idle speculation either.
Okay.
I mean, there are already rumors circulating about potential buyers for ESPN.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big names like Apple and Amazon are reportedly interested.
Wow. That would be a huge power shift in the media world.
Right.
Tech giants owning the keys to the sports kingdom.
It would be fascinating to watch, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
A company like Apple, with its global reach and innovative spirit,
Right.
taking over ESPN.
Uh-huh.
Imagine what that could look like.
My head is spinning just thinking about all the possibilities. But let's step back for a second.
Okay.
How likely is this to actually happen?
Right.
Is a sale of ESPN a done deal or just a bunch of rumors?
Well, nothing is official yet.
Okay.
Disney hasn't confirmed anything publicly.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, it's still in the realm of speculation.
Okay. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, it'll send shockwaves through the entire industry.
Absolutely. I think it could reshape the landscape of sports broadcasting as we know it.
Okay. So let's recap what we've discussed so far.
Okay.
Disney's facing some serious challenges in the streaming wars. Their stock performance has been underwhelming.
Right.
They're cutting jobs and restructuring to save costs.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's this possibility of them selling off ESPN. It's a lot to process.
It is. It all points to this larger question, though.
Well-
Is Disney this iconic company built on, a legacy of animation and theme parks and familiar franchises?
Yeah.
Is it at a crossroads? Are they on the verge of a complete transformation?
Wait. Are you suggesting that Disney, as we know it, might cease to exist?
Not necessarily cease to exist,
Okay.
but maybe reinvent itself
Okay.
for the digital age.
Yeah.
Think about it. they're already making some pretty drastic moves.
Right.
What if this is just the beginning of a much larger shift?
Okay, now you've officially piqued my curiosity. What kind of transformation are we talking about? Give me some specifics. Okay, so we left off with this big question. Could Disney actually be on the verge of like a complete reinvention? What would that even look like?
Right.
It's hard to imagine them straying too far from, that Magic Kingdom image.
Right, but think about it. They're already contemplating selling off ESPN.
Right.
Which is a huge part of their identity.
Yeah.
So maybe they're realizing that they need to be even bolder to stay relevant.
Okay, so if we're talking bold reinvention,
Yeah.
what are we actually picturing here?
Okay, well, for starters, let's go back to streaming.
Okay.
Disney Plus has been successful.
Right.
But could they be even more aggressive? What if they merged Disney Plus and Hulu into like one mega platform?
Okay.
One subscription for everything.
Oh.
Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, you name it.
That would definitely streamline things from a consumer perspective.
Right.
No more juggling multiple apps and subscriptions.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that hurt their cable business even more?
Well, it's definitely a risk, but, cable is already on a downward trajectory.
Right.
And a unified streaming platform would give Disney enormous leverage
Okay.
in negotiations with content creators and distributors. There would be a force to be reckoned with.
So more power in the streaming world,
Yeah.
but at the cost of potentially accelerating the decline of their traditional cable channels?
Right.
It's a trade-off they'd have to weigh very carefully.
Exactly. It's about recognizing, where the future of entertainment is headed and making the tough decisions
Yeah.
to stay ahead of the curve. But streaming isn't the only area that's ripe for disruption.
Okay, so what else are we thinking about?
Well, think about Disney's, vast intellectual property.
Mm.
I mean, they have a treasure trove of characters and stories and worlds
Right.
just waiting to be explored
Okay.
in new and innovative ways.
So we're talking about going beyond the traditional movies and theme park rides.
Exactly. What if they embraced cutting-edge technology to create completely new entertainment experiences?
Like what?
Interactive storytelling, immersive virtual worlds, even personalized entertainment,
Wow.
tailored to individual preferences.
Okay, now we're getting into some sci-fi territory.
Right, yeah.
But are these actual possibilities, or are we just like, having flights of fancy here?
I mean, think about it. They could leverage artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality,
Right.
all those futuristic technologies we keep hearing about to create experiences that blur the lines between entertainment and reality. Imagine, stepping into a virtual world where you can interact with your favorite Disney characters,
Wow.
explore magical kingdoms, even create your own adventures.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind.
Yeah.
This is next level stuff.
It is.
But is Disney actually capable of pulling this off?
I mean,
It sounds incredibly ambitious and expensive.
they certainly have the resources and the creative talent
Right.
to make it happen.
I do.
And don't forget, Disney has a long history of innovation.
That's true.
They were pioneers in animation theme parks home video.
Right.
They've consistently pushed the boundaries
Yeah.
of what's possible in entertainment.
True enough. But this would be their biggest gamble yet.
It would. But,
Yeah.
high risk often comes with high reward. If Disney can successfully reinvent itself for the digital age,
Yeah.
they could create an entirely new era of entertainment and secure their dominance for decades to come. It's a really pivotal moment, not just for Disney, but for the entire entertainment industry.
So what you're saying is this whole deep dive into Disney stock has turned into a deep dive into the future of entertainment itself.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're witnessing a seismic shift,
Yeah.
and Disney is right at the epicenter.
Wow. That's a pretty profound thought. So as we wrap up this episode, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they consider whether or not Disney stock is a good investment?
Well, I think the most important thing is to understand that Disney is at a crossroads.
Okay.
They're facing some serious challenges, but they're also making bold moves to adapt to a rapidly changing world.
So it's not as simple as saying Disney's a magical company, so their stock must be a magical investment.
Right, exactly. Investors need to look beyond the nostalgia and the brand recognition
Yeah.
and really analyze the company's strategic decisions, their financial health, and their long-term prospects.
Okay, due diligence is key.
Yes,
Don't just buy into the hype.
exactly. Consider all the factors we've discussed. The streaming wars, the box office performance, the future of ESPN,
Right.
the cost-cutting measures, and now this potential for a complete reinvention.
Right.
It's a complex picture with both opportunities and risks.
So for our listeners who are Disney fans and potential investors,
Yeah,
this is a company to watch very closely.
absolutely. Disney's next move could determine not only their own fate, but the future of entertainment as we know it.
All right, folks, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Well,
We've explored the challenges and opportunities facing Disney, delved into their strategic decisions, and even pondered the possibility of them embarking on, like, a radical transformation. It's been a wild ride.
it really has.
And as always, we encourage you to continue the conversation, share your thoughts, discuss it with your friends, do your own research, and form your own conclusions.
Exactly. Because ultimately, the best investment decisions are the ones that are well-informed
Right.
and aligned with your own individual goals and risk tolerance.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating and ever-changing world of Disney.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.